What is up, everybody? The Oracle at Mushin here, bringing you a tarot reading. So, just real quick, this is the general reading. It's for the collective consciousness. If you'd like a more precise reading, you can see how to do that in the description below. I offer live readings and email readings, so you got a host of options there. Very first card that comes up is Resoluteness. Now, this is kind of all about determination, staying focused. How bad do you want what you want? Like, and in regards to your upcoming week, how focused are you on your goal? And if you don't have a goal, maybe you should make one. Maybe you should have something to help you through the tough times. And it says determination, no compromises, unwavering focus, inner resolve, integrity, a test of character, self examination. So here's the thing, as we go through life, many of us kind of naturally go about this development of these characteristics. Some of us, like myself, don't really get the mental fortitude or ability to directly deal with it until life gets really shitty. Regardless of where you're at and all of this stuff, we still always kind of have to practice integrity. And in case you don't know what integrity means, like a very loose understanding of it, my understanding of integrity would be all the pieces of your life fitting in well together, doing what you say you're going to do, being as, what's the word I'm looking for? As consistent as you possibly can, honoring your own word, and being someone of value, really, in your own life and other people's life, regardless of the circumstances. So this is really about showing up for life, giving it your best no matter what. And if you do fall short, learning from that mistake and getting back on your horse. It really kind of ties in well with the reading for last week of Ebb and Flow, because maybe you had an off week. Now it's time to pick it up and get back on your feet. Like when I quit smoking cigarettes, for example, I tried and I failed at one point. But then I saw this billboard that says a lot of people try many times to quit. But don't view that as failure, view it as part of the process. I think today I have like over 9 months without cigarettes. Hold on, let me look real quick. I'm just curious for my own understanding. I have 298 days. So that's actually almost closer to 10 months, like 9.5 months. Yeah, you can make big changes. The thing is picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and moving forward. So let's get to the very first tarot card for next week. It's interesting because this card came up last week as well, and I shuffled these pretty good. So we have the King of Stones yet again. And in regards to resoluteness and what came up last week, I would say that this is really about resolving to get more in touch with yourself, getting out of that fear space that you were in last week, really diving into your emotions on a deep level, connecting with your intuition, relying on spirit, and like really communicating with where you're at in your life, like what's going on, and communicating with yourself as to what you need, how you can step your game up, where you need to cut yourself a break, and all of this. Because here's one of the things. I know for me, in my own personal experience, I like to cut myself a lot of breaks, or I should say that I used to. I used to cut myself a lot of breaks. And when I began to shift to holding myself accountable on a deep level, which is another concept of integrity, when I began to hold myself accountable, at some point it almost switched to this place where I didn't have any realism or compassion for myself, and I beat myself up on the other end of the spectrum. The King of Stones is all about kind of being comfortable in your emotions, using this wisdom that is the turtle. Reptiles are symbols of wisdom. Using the wisdom of your emotions using wisdom to navigate your emotions, I guess, is a better way to say it. And when we can begin to do that, we can have this more honest dialogue of, am I going too hard? Am I not going hard enough? And begin to make appropriate choices and minute adjustments in our life that can have big impacts. Because big changes are disastrous. I've talked about it on the Spiritual Phoenix podcast in an episode episode called The Philosophy of Natural Change. And the basic premise of that is that if you look in the natural world, big changes, things that occur suddenly, are usually these great expenditures of energy, and they're disastrous. Small gradual changes over a period of time can develop into beautiful things. And the example of, say, this big instant change would be earthquake, hurricane, typhoon, stuff like that. Now, the slow gradual change, you could say that would be something like the Grand Canyon. You could say it'd be acorn turning into an oak tree. Those are all slow gradual changes that develop into beautiful things. So with resoluteness, the resoluteness here is to go slowly through your emotions, navigate it peacefully without fear, and doing it through communicating honestly with yourself, tapping into spirit and your intuition, that leading to purity, which is in the hair, and into this, these green leaves are hanging over him, which is kind of like a heart. So yeah, the next card that comes up, we have the Seven of Drums. So drums are pentacles in this deck. And this card has this beautiful woman with these birds flying around her as she's right next to the ocean and kind of on her tiptoes. Now, to me, this is really speaking of finding your vibration, finding your joy. And since it's tying into this water, it's interesting because it even goes with ebb and flow from last week, even more so. Now that these kind of deep emotions have subsided and she's on this level ground or on the shore of everything, she's able to dance and rejoice. So when you begin to understand your emotions and allow them to come and allow them to go and not be controlled by them, it frees up a great amount of energy where you're able to pursue a lot more different things. And it's interesting, she has all these red ribbons tied around her. Red is a color associated with the root chakra. Root chakra is all kind of about the material world, which is similar to what Pentacles is about in a large way. So to me, this is saying that when you kind of allow yourself to tap into your emotions, you can be more in the material world. The interesting thing, though, is if you look at her one foot, her foot is lifted off of the ground where she only has 1 foot on the ground, really, and just her tiptoes. And to me, that also speaks to the fact that you don't have to be so grounded in the material world that you lose all sense of everything. The material world can be kind of a drag at times if you're not tempering it with spirituality and intuition and all of these other gifts. The other element of this card that really speaks to me is these turquoise notes that come up. Like her hair, for example, is turquoise. When I see hair in tarot cards, I associate it with attributes of the chakra and embodying them. To me, that means she's in active communication with herself, of her deepest wants, and she's embodying that and communicating through body language and through her own choices that she is happy, well-adjusted, and content. Now, as far as these birds that are flying around her, I don't really have any fancy symbolism for birds specifically, beyond the fact that they're able to kind of take root and take nest in elements of the earth, stay lofty enough to not be eaten by kind of the predators of the material realm, but also fly enough to get like a bird's eye view. The other element of this that really comes up in regards to the birds is they have these yellow tinges to them. Yellow is relative to navel chakra. That's all about sense of self-worth. So tempering your self-worth with this blue color that is also on the birds, which again is that turquoise, will give you a clearer ability to speak. It will give you more comfort in your own words. So yeah, this is kind of carrying on the communication that we've established in the King of Stones so we can carry this deeper message. And being resolute in living our joy, not in finding it. Because here's the thing. All of us have the capacity to be happy now. The capacity to be happy now comes from accepting our emotions like the King of Stones and being okay with how we feel and allowing it to pass. We don't have to become anything else than what we are. The act of being happy isn't some goal on the horizon. It isn't the act of becoming anything. It's removing the obstructions and the barriers that we've built up from shitty coping mechanisms to deal with circumstances and kind of changing our perception about reality. Like, sometimes things don't have to change in your life beyond your perception of it, and it will greatly impact how you see things. And people can say that's very easy to say and difficult to do, and that's the exact attitude that I'm talking about having to change. Because on some levels, that is true. It's completely manageable. Consider how much energy you spend being miserable at times or focusing on shit that you literally have no control over. And when you begin to understand that you can apply that energy directly to focusing on things that you enjoy or actively taking steps towards achieving things that you're passionate about, your life changes right then. Being resolute in that says even when maybe things aren't going well, or even when I'm not getting what I want in this moment, I don't have to revert back to these old patterns of thinking. This is just on a quick tear. When I started the Spiritual Phoenix podcast specifically, I was like 60 days clean of substances, about four months roughly into working on my mental health. And I have been bouncing back from extreme bouts of psychosis and all this stuff because of resoluteness, connection with spirit, the ability to communicate, and getting around other people. My life has changed dramatically, and it's not to say that I don't have moments when I fall out of joy, but I'm learning more and more tools to help chip away all these things that are obstructions to my passion, obstructions to my happiness. And it's not a matter of becoming anything, it's getting in tune with who I always was until I started to believe my own bullshit. And with that, we're going to move on to the next card. Queen of Stones. Again, Stones is about emotions. Queen of Stones is this woman who's really able to traverse her emotions, but not become bogged down by them. She has this very pale body, which means she's living her throat chakra. She's living her truth. She's always communicating what's going on with her on a deep level. There's these pink crystals all around her. Pink is the color of the emotional heart in some circles. So you have the green outer heart, the pink inner heart, the emotional heart. Her emotions are crystallizing into these beautiful structures. Emotions are like these, they're like a guidance system, and they give us more information. When I encounter unpleasant emotions, because none of them are bad, although I might have been taught to label them bad by society or by my upbringing, when I experience unpleasant emotions, it doesn't necessarily indicate that I'm doing something wrong. It could indicate that I might need to find a different perspective, or that I might need to adapt some behavior. Getting out of this consciousness of right or wrong and focusing on pleasant and unpleasant is what we need to do. And I have to add this caveat though too. It goes back to the honest communication. So sometimes we can do things that on the surface appear pleasant but create more chaos for us. So you can't become so addicted to feeling good that it borders on hedonism. You want to be in a more Epicurean mindset of you seek pleasure but not to your own peril. When you tap into the orange, there's these orange fish in there. Orange is about sexuality, creativity. To me, the fish in this speak more about the creative aspect. I really don't go into a lot of the sexual aspect of orange because I think that of sacral chakra, because all that stuff will align when it's supposed to. There's no sense in really talking about it, with the exception that one of the best ways to heal damaged energy in your sacral chakra from sexual abuse or anything like that is relative to creativity, because that can help establish, it can help you heal wounds, I guess is the best way to say it. Now, behind her, you have this universe. The universe is illustrated with these different shades of purple. So you have crown chakra, connection to spirit. You have the blue of like third eye chakra, the bluish purple of third eye chakra, intuition, psychic gifts. You have the some lighter shades of blue, communication yet again. You have pink, emotions. So to me, this is indicating like when you really, really tap into your emotions, aren't controlled by them, you free up so much power. You open yourself up to the higher chakras. here's the real hit in all of this. All of the things that you want aren't going to be earned by hard work, by all of this grinding, by all of this hustling. Um, I'm not going to say that you don't have to do some of that at times, because there's times where it's unpleasant. Most of it is allowing the process to take over, like I talked about in ebb and flow, and being resolute to ride out the difficult times so you can experience the good times, and not trying to necessarily change things, but allow yourself to feel that. This card to me is all about comfortably feeling yourself, like emotions. And eventually you transition to the King of Stones. Not to say that the king is that men are better. What I'm trying to indicate is that that's the progression of the suit more than anything. Honestly, this card is a lot more beautiful, because when you begin to tap into the power that you have by allowing yourself to feel your emotions, it's a life-changing moment, because so much energy is freed up. And I think that I've hit the general concept of that. The resoluteness of it, though, is riding it out when it's unpleasant, and then still doing the work when it is pleasant. Because this is the last thing I'll say on that card, because when it really comes down to it, a lot of us like to slack off when things are going good and think we don't need to have this honest communication with ourselves, or we ignore things that we have no damn business doing because we think that we can handle it now, when maybe we just need to let that kind of behavior go altogether. And then finally, you come to the Ace of Drums in the upside down position. Now, drums is about pentacles. So Ace of Pentacles is kind of about material wealth. The reverse position of it would be you're not liking where your world's at. And which is interesting going through all of this, because you can emotionally go through all this stuff. You can emotionally change everything and still not like your material world. This is something that I actually struggled with recently. Sometimes you're not going to get all the gifts of the work that you're doing and of changing your perception and all of this stuff till after the fact. The resoluteness of it is believing in your higher power and having faith that things will sort themselves out as they're supposed to, and that ultimately sometimes you got to white knuckle it a little bit, and it's not going to be all sunshines and rainbows. And it's not a matter of you not thinking positive thoughts, and it's not a matter of your internal dialogue being fucked up, and it's not a matter of law of attraction biting you in the ass. Sometimes it's life on life's terms. The thing about the Ace of Drums, though, in my mind, it really says you create your own vibe. So I really just said that it's not about those things, but when you can kind of carry on despite the circumstances, carry on despite your attitude being shitty, and here's the thing, having honest communication. My attitude's shitty, I'm still going to show up. I don't like the way that my life is right now, I'm still going to show up. I don't like any of this, I'm still going to show up regardless, which goes back to integrity, showing up. Shit's going to change eventually, and it goes back to ebb and flow, like from last week. Ride that stuff out. Have faith in your higher power, as indicated by the King of Stones. Really dive into your intuition. Begin to find your joy. Dance when the world's fucking burning at times, like, is really what you have to do. And that's something that I've learned through a lot of my experience. That being said, it doesn't mean I'm going to do it every time, and that's okay too. When you really dive into your emotions, you're going to see this blessing, and then shifting this Ace of Pentacles of not kind of getting what you want, because even a reverse ace is still pretty good. You're gonna, it goes into this saying, gratitude can turn a meal into a feast. When you really have this emotional intelligence and emotional presence in your life, you're going to have your own vibe. Your vibe's going to attract other people. You're going to create this resonance. The resonance is going to create more people, grow your circle. That resonance is going to draw more in. You're going to build up momentum. And the ebb and flow of that is if your life has been shit most of your life, it will progressively get better, and it doesn't remove all of the negative experiences, but it gives you a more likelihood of having a great experience overall. So with that, I just want to say thank you for listening, and just to throw this out there in case people don't know much about how I read tarot, I really read it from the standpoint of we get the opportunity to make choices based upon our own experience, and those choices indicate the outcome of the cards. So if none of these cards connected with you, maybe it's something you need to look at deeper. Maybe it's just that you've kind of ascended past this level. Check back another week and see if it's more in tune with you. But the way that I read this is more as these are cards to do work. They're not definitive things set in stone. It's just signposts and suggestions for you to maybe live your best life. So this week coming up, be resolute to find out what you want if you don't know. Be resolute to accomplish what you want if you do know. And be resolute to find your happiness by getting out of your own way and recognizing that you already have it as soon as you stop telling yourself you don't. With that, love and light. If you want a personal reading, book one in the show notes. Peace.